Hello my sweet angel besties and welcome to episode 2 of trying to finish every book series that I am in the middle of. I will link episode 1 down below in the description if you haven't seen it, but at the beginning of that video I talked about all of the series that I am currently in the middle of, and I told you there were 16 series that I had yet to complete, and that is only talking about the series that have another book that is already out. So I'm not including series where there are more books to come but they're not coming out till next year or the year after or something like that, and I'm also not including series where I've decided not to continue the series. So I told you guys there were 16 book series that I was in the middle of and wanted to continue, and since filming that video I have been able to get up to date with or complete 6 of those series, which is pretty good. 6 out of 16, not bad, not amazing. So you would think at least we're progressing, at least we're bringing that number down, at least we're not in the middle of as many series as we were before. However, I looked over my Goodreads and it turns out that since filming that video I have also managed to start 6 more series that I am not up to date with. So we did kind of get rid of 6, but we've just replaced it with 6 new ones. So apparently I am still in the middle of 16 book series. So today I'm hoping I can hopefully get up to date with or complete some more books in series that I am in the middle of, but I guess we will see how we go. I don't know exactly which books I'm going to get to in this video, but I do know that I want to start by reading the next book in the Madoran Chronicles by Lynette Noni. This is actually one of the newest series that I have started, and I read book 1 last month and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.25 stars. It is a YA fantasy series and is actually a bit of an older series, so it's actually completed, which is really nice because I can just start and finish the series whenever I choose to. I don't have to wait for the next book to be released. But it is a book about a girl called Alex who accidentally finds herself at Akane, which is a magical school for teenagers with gifts, which are kind of just like powers, and everyone has a different gift or power, and she didn't even know that she had a gift until she goes to Akane, and now she's trying to learn how to use her gift, and also she may or may not have run into a villain who basically wants her gone, so she's trying to avoid that. So I'm going to start off this video by reading book 2 in the Madoran Chronicles. Liam and I have come to the Sunshine Coast for the weekend, which is one of my favorite places in the world. Unfortunately, today it is very overcast, so I don't know how much time we'll be spending at the actual beach today because it is forecast to rain. Fortunately, if I'm not at the beach, we'll probably just be hanging out at home, chilling, relaxing, reading. I'm about 40% of the way through Raylia, and I'm enjoying it. I think I feel pretty similarly about this one as I did the first one. It is very nice to go into a world where you already know the characters, you already know the world building, and any world building that we get in this book is just like expanding on what we already know. You're not like starting from scratch. So that's always nice, just to like go into a familiar world with characters that you already know and love. I'm intrigued to see like what happens in this book because the first book was not very plot driven. It was very character driven, and I feel like most of the first book just kind of felt like setup, like world building, meeting characters, kind of just spending time learning character relationships and developing character relationships, developing the magic system, stuff like that, and also meeting our villain, who I think probably will be prevalent across the whole series or a lot of the series. I'm not really sure, but that's my guess. So I'm intrigued to see what the second book is about. So far, obviously without any spoilers, the second book is kind of just like her second year at the magical school, because if you don't know the synopsis of this whole series, we are following Alex, our main character, who has entered into this magical world and she is now attending a magical boarding school. I want to kind of describe it as Hogwarts because that's kind of how I imagine it, but I don't want you to like get your hopes up too high, and I feel like comparing anything to Harry Potter, like it's a bit dangerous. Harry Potter is obviously very iconic. I don't feel like it's fair to compare anything to Harry Potter, but just in terms of there being a magical school, it being about teenagers, I feel like the classes are kind of like how I imagine them is very similar to how it's portrayed in Harry Potter. So in just like the way the setting is, I'm imagining it similar to Hogwarts. Whether that's correct or not, I'm not sure, but that's just where my brain has taken it. And in the same way that Harry Potter kind of follows, like book 1 is his first year, book 2 is his second year. That's kind of how it's gone so far in this. So book number 1 was Alex's first year at Akane, and in the second book she is in her second year. So I don't know if that's going to continue across the whole series, but that's what we've gotten so far. So yeah, she's in her second year. She's got her friend group very established. We've met some new characters, which is kind of fun. The world is kind of expanding in other ways too, which is really interesting. I think the most interesting parts to me so far is like the magic system and like how each student at the school kind of has their own gift. And I personally love learning about all of the gifts that the different students have, because like when you meet a new student, you don't know what their gift is or what like their power is. So working all of that out is really interesting, and there's also a few characters that kind of just feel a bit mysterious, so I'm very intrigued to like hear more about them. But yeah, I've mentioned this before, but this series is very YA. It is a YA series, so obviously it's designed for teenagers, and it reads very much like it is written for teenagers, which obviously it is, so that makes sense. But I feel like some books just feel extra YA, and I do think this series is one of those series which I don't particularly mind, but I think some people might. It does cringe me out in some parts, but most of the time it's fine. And I think because I'm connected to the characters now, I don't mind too much. I think it was written, I think I want to say in like 2015 or something like that, so it definitely is a little bit of an older series, and I feel like that kind of comes across a bit as well, just with like the way they talk and the way they behave. It just feels a bit 2015, which again is fine because that's when it was written, so that makes sense. But yeah, I'm enjoying this so far, and hopefully I'll get a lot of reading done this weekend while we're away, but who knows. I think we're gonna go to the beach later, so hopefully I'll get some reading done at the beach, but I guess I'll keep you guys updated. I just got home from dinner. Look at my cute little claw clip I have in my hair. I'm just wearing, oh, I can't really even show you. Perfect angle. Just wearing a cute little white dress. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. Little reading update. I'm up to 82% of the way through this book, up to chapter 22. I got so much reading done today. Like I said, it was super overcast today. So we did go to the beach and we went for a swim and stuff like that, but we were only there for like, I want to say 2 hours. And because it was a little bit more overcast and a bit more cold, we did go swimming, but not for very long. So most of my time was spent on the beach reading. And then apart from that, we've also just been hanging out at home, relaxing, which I guess that's like what you do on a holiday. You just chill and read, and Liam's been reading a lot too, so I've actually gotten a lot more reading done than I thought I would, and I am really enjoying it. I will say there was like quite a large section in the middle of the book that I just was not obsessed with. I don't know why. They went on this like specific adventure, obviously no spoilers, and it just went for so long, and that would have been fine if I was interested in it, but I wasn't. And so I was just so bored at that, well, for most of that adventure, because it was like lots of little things to make up a bigger adventure, and I, for the most part, was not that interested in it, so I just found the book a little bit boring for a while. But now we're back at the school and things are happening that I'm much more interested in, and I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen in this last 20%, because I have no idea. Like I have no guesses as to what's going to happen, but I'm intrigued. But I think I'm going to get into my PJs now, and then maybe Liam and I will watch something together, and then I'll probably read and go to bed. Crazy stuff going on here. But yeah, it's been just like such a perfect relaxing day. I love it here. I never want to go home. Obviously we're back home now. We got home yesterday, but I ended up finishing Raylia the day before that. So I finished it on Saturday at the beach, and I didn't read anything else that day. And then yesterday, like I said, we got home from the beach and I started my next book, which is Lost and Lassoed, which I will talk about in a second. But I also only read 15 pages, so we'll talk about that in a second. But thoughts on Raylia. I can't even remember what I said. I know I like chatted to you and I was at about halfway, I want to say. I really enjoyed most of this book. I liked the beginning. The middle section was like just okay to me. It wasn't super interesting. It was a little bit boring to me. I don't really know why. Like I just wasn't as interested in what was happening. I don't know why the setting of the things that took place made it less interesting to me, but I honestly think it did. I think I realized throughout reading this book that I just much prefer this book, or at least this series, more when it's set at the school. And like I mentioned before, there was a big section in the middle where it was kind of like this adventure, almost like excursion, I guess you could say, that a group of the students were doing for one of their like classes, kind of. And so that was like a really big chunk of the book that I just didn't really care about. I liked it. It wasn't bad at all. I just found myself getting a bit more like distracted during that, and almost just kind of like, oh, hurry up kind of thing. And then after maybe like the 60% mark, I would say that last chunk of the book was so good. I loved it. They were back at the school. They were were kind of doing their normal things, and I just found it really, really interesting. And the ending again was crazy, which the ending of the first one was pretty crazy, or like the last kind of like scene with the villain of the first book was really crazy, and then the same thing at the end of the second book. It kind of had that big like main character versus villain moment, and that was really interesting. And they left it on such a good, I wouldn't say it was like cliffhanger, but definitely like a lot of unanswered questions, and like I want to know more. I want to know what's going to happen next. So I definitely want to pick up the third book soon. I think it's like 4 main books in this series. I haven't really looked into it. I should. I think it's like 4 main books and maybe some novellas. I need to, like I said, get my facts straight, but I think I've only got 2 big books left. I need to make sure I don't need to read the novellas in between, actually. I mean, I'm not going to read it right now, but for when I do pick up the next book, I need to figure that out. So that was such a fun time. I think I'm going to give it 4.25, which is what I gave the first book in the series. And I think it honestly would have been rated higher if it didn't have that big chunk in the middle that I wasn't as keen on, but it was just fun. I really like this series. It is, like I've said before, very YA. Like, it feels like YA writing. The characters feel a bit silly, a bit cringy at times, but also this book is written for teenagers and I am in my mid-20s, so of course I'm probably going to be like, oh, it feels a bit young, because it is. It's meant for younger readers. But like I said, I started Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This is the 3rd book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and this book is really exciting because this book is one that I feel like a lot of fans have been waiting for since we read the first book. In Done and Dusted, you meet 2 characters that you're like, oh, there's definitely going to be a book about them, and I honestly thought the second book would have been about them, and I don't really know specifically why it wasn't, but it wasn't. But I will say I really, really liked the second book. That was definitely like my favorite over the first one, and so I'm hoping that maybe it might be one of those situations where it just like gets better as the series progresses. Like maybe book 3 will be better than book 2, which was better than book 1, but we'll see. I haven't heard anyone's review on this yet. I haven't like gone looking for it, so I'm not really sure what the overall consensus is from other people so far, so I don't know if it's really loved or a bit disappointing. Like, I have no idea, but I'm excited to read this and see what I think. But in this book we are following Teddy and Gus. Teddy's full name is Theodora, by the way, because I have had a few people be like, Teddy's a boy's name, but Theodora, and is his full name like Augustus or something, I'm not sure. But yeah, Gus and Teddy. Teddy is the main character from the first book's best friend, and Gus is the best friend of the other main character in the first book. So that's really fun. And I don't really know what this book is about. I haven't like looked at the back or like what the vibes are. It's also best friend's brother, and I'm pretty sure they do not like each other, but of course, you know, they're gonna fall in love. Oh, I forgot, it's single dad. I totally forgot that Gus was a single dad. That's gonna be fun. I guess we'll see. Like I said, I started it yesterday, but I barely read anything at all. So I read 18 pages, and so far it's fine. Like, I have like nothing to say really so far, but I would say the first 2 books in this series were very quick, very fast paced, very easy to just kind of like sit down and binge, and I'm hoping that's the case with this one. I love a short little cowboy romance. This one is literally, I think, just over 300 pages, so that is just perfect to me. So we'll see. I'm gonna sit down and read now. I have a lot of time to read today, so maybe we'll get a lot of reading done. I guess we'll wait and see, but I'm excited to see what I think of Lost and Lassoed. Guys, I'm having so much fun with this. It's just so good. I never go into these books expecting them to be like the best book I've ever read. They're kind of just like fun, in between books, great to read after a fantasy, obviously, like I just did. I finished like I don't actually know how long it was. On my Kindle, it was like 600 pages. I don't know if the paperback is 600 pages, but I finished reading Raylia. Kind of need a little, I want to call it no commitment book, because this book is just like easy. I don't have to think. It requires no brain power from me. I'm just here to have fun. I'm here for the good vibes. I'm here for a flirty, fun little rom-com, and that's exactly what it's giving me. The vibes are perfect. I'm obsessed. I am halfway through page 155, and guys, there's barely any romance yet. How freaking good. I know some of you probably hate that. You're like, I don't want to read a romance book if there's no romance. And don't get me wrong, like there's hints of one. You can see it coming. You can feel the romance coming. But for now, they just got past the point of hating each other. And that is exactly what I want in a romance book. Slow burns are everything to me. I don't want a book where they're obsessed with each other by the 30% mark. Like, make me work for it. Give me a hint of a romance at like 40%. Give me the first kiss at like 60%, maybe. I want the tension, I want the groveling, I want the yearning, or I want the like flirty banter, kind of insulting each other, but like in a fun way. Not in a mean way. I'm not a bully romance girly. Like, that's not for me personally, but like that kind of like, I'm making fun of you, but it's because I'm interested in you. That really sounds awful now that I'm saying it out loud, but hopefully you'll understand like what I'm referring to. More of like that witty banter, like a Luke and Lorelai situation. Hopefully I'm making sense. But basically the premise of this book is Gus works on the ranch. He's the eldest brother and he kind of feels like the ranch is just like his responsibility. Technically it's still run by his father, but he just kind of feels like the weight is on his shoulders and he feels like he needs to make sure everything's running smoothly. He's in charge of everything. He knows what's going on. That's his vibe. But he's also a single dad. He has a 6-year-old daughter who is so freaking cute, and he's actually co-parenting with the mother of the child, and usually they kind of do like split custody and they have a really great relationship. The mother of the child and Gus get along really, really well, which is really nice, and they usually co-parent really easily, really well, split custody. But the mother, Cam, she has had to go away for like the summer, and so for the summer Gus is taking care of his daughter all by himself, and it's just like not really working because he just has too many other responsibilities on the ranch. Like, he's like, I can't juggle everything. So he hires Teddy to be kind of like a nanny, but I guess only like half the week basically. So it's like a nanny romance, single parent romance. I don't know what it is, but like single parent romances are just the best. Like, I really, really love them. I love kids in books for the most part. I feel like they make it so much funnier. They create so many like awkward kind of situations that are funny to me, and I love just like the scenes that you get. I feel like you get to see the love interest being a good mom or a good dad, and that just makes them way more attractive to me personally. Like, I love it when you see a single dad just being such a good dad and being such a doting father and care so much about their kid. I don't know why, but it just makes me like them so much more. So far, so good. I'm really, really enjoying this. It's not like a 5-star read, but it's just fun. It's just fun. I don't know exactly how long it's taken me to read this, but it feels like it's been quick. I've been doing other things today. I haven't just been sitting and reading. I've kind of just been like reading in between the other things that I've been doing, but I've just like flown through the first half of this book so quickly. And I might honestly, if I can, finish the book today because I'm just having a lot of fun and I want to see them actually end up together, because right now we have just like the tiniest glimpses of what will be. And so now I'm just like, okay, give me the romance, please. We've had a lot of tension and I hope the tension keeps going, but I'm ready for some romance. Guys, this is the stuff that I live for in romance books. It's so small, like it's such a small detail, and I know it's not like this crazy giant romantic gesture, but little things like this really get me. I love a tiny little act of service. So I wouldn't say this is a spoiler, but obviously feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to hear like anything about the book. Basically, Gus makes her a coffee and he hands her the coffee, and it says when she picked up the coffee she said, I use this cup every morning. And then Gus says, I know. Like, he has paid attention to which coffee cup she uses every morning, and he has made her coffee in that cup. Like, it's just the little things like this that get me. Paying attention to the details and then doing a tiny little act of service that shows you've been paying attention. It gets me every time. Again, such a small thing. I know it's like the bare minimum. I'm sure he'll do some huge, grand, romantic gesture, but I just appreciate these little things so much. Finished this book and I loved it. I had so much fun. This was honestly better than I was expecting it to be, and I had pretty like decent expectations. I think this might be my favorite in the series so far. It literally seems like the series is getting better as it progresses, for me at least. Like, Done and Dusted was good, Swift and Saddled was better, but maybe this was even better than that. I don't know if I'm just like not remembering how I felt about the other ones very well, because obviously it was a while ago that I read them, and maybe I did feel this way, but I think this is my favorite. I think this is very close to how I felt about Swift and Saddled, because I really enjoyed that one. But I think I want to give it like 4.25, which is pretty good rating for this. It didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but it was just so much fun. Like, I just had the best time reading this. Technically, I guess it wasn't like super plot driven, because obviously apart from her being a nanny. It wasn't like it was super plot heavy, but I honestly didn't even think about that while I was reading, and that is a good sign, because for me, I really like it when romances have a decent plot. But if I didn't even pay attention that there wasn't really a crazy plot going on, that's a good sign. And I often say this about books that are like interconnected standalones, but once you get a few books into the series, you have that found family. You're already connected to a lot of the characters that might be side characters or might be related, family, friends, that sort of thing. So it's so much easier to be attached to the story quicker. And so I think even though this book is only like 300 pages, because you already know the setting, you already know all the side characters, you're already attached to a lot of the side characters, it didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to get you invested in those things. So you could just jump straight into the romance, and you also already knew a little bit about Teddy and a little bit about Gus from those other books, because they always like set the books up quite well. I think like they already set up the start of the next book at the end of this book. Like in the epilogue, it like sets up the start of, what's it called, Wild and Wrangled or something. It tells you at the back. Yeah, Wild and Wrangled, which I'm so excited about. I cannot wait to read the next one. I think I'm really gonna like it, because it has a similar premise to another book that I really love, and the characters that the next book is about, like I already like them, and we barely even know them, but I just really think I'm gonna like them. So I'm just so excited about this. I thought it was so much fun. I definitely think you should read the books in order. Like you obviously could technically read this one as a standalone. You could read any of the books in the series as a standalone, but I probably wouldn't recommend it, because they really do build on the setting and the family and the characters in each book. And if you start here and you really like it, you've kind of already ruined what's happened in the other books, because they obviously mention it and refer to it. So you could start here. I wouldn't recommend it, but obviously you can do whatever you want. But I feel like in reading vlogs, I often say it was a cute book or it was a good story, but I just wasn't connected to the characters. And if you don't get connected to the characters, I just feel like it's pretty hard for a book to be highly rated. Like it's hard for you to rate a book 5 stars if you don't care about the characters, no matter how good the plot is. However, if you connect to the characters, it kind of doesn't matter what the plot is. There are so many books that I absolutely adore that have barely any plot, because I just love the characters. And the fact that I was this connected to these characters in a 300-page book is crazy. It just goes to show you can build a really good story in a short amount of time. You don't have to have 500 or 600 pages to create found family, to create characters that you care about. You can do it in 300 pages. So props to you, Lila Sage. You've done it once again. She is yet to fail me. I've enjoyed all of the books in this series so far, and like I said, each one more than the last. So hopefully number 4, I don't know, 4.5 or 5-star read. That's the prediction I'm gonna have based on her track record, so I guess we'll see. But this was such a success, and I'm so glad I read this. Literally binged it in basically a day. Obviously I read 15 pages yesterday, so I guess I can't quite say that, but pretty much a 1-day binge. And that again just shows how much I enjoyed it, because I definitely didn't need to binge it today. I think I will do some more reading a little bit later, but probably not till like after dinner maybe. I mean, I'm literally about to go make dinner, so it's not like that is very far away. But yeah, I think I know what I'm gonna start next, and I think a lot of you are gonna be pretty excited about it, so I'll check in with you guys later. I totally forgot to vlog last night, but I did start my new book, which is Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh, the 5th book in the Boys of Tommen series. Not gonna lie, I am reading it on my Kobo because this book is thick, and I've read all of the Boys of Tommen books on an e-reader, whether it's my Kindle or my Kobo, and so now it's just a habit, and so I'm gonna keep doing that. This one honestly isn't as thick as the other ones, I'm pretty sure. I feel like Redeeming 6 was like, or Redeeming or Saving 6, one of them was like 900 pages, and this one is only 550 pages, so obviously not as bad. But it's now the next day and I'm gonna keep reading this. It just feels so nice to be back in this world, back with these characters. I just feel like now that we're at book 5, like you just know these characters so well. To be fair, obviously you don't follow the same POV in every book, so the first 2 books are about Johnny and Shannon. The next 2 books are about Joey and Aoife. Hopefully that's how you say her name. My apologies if not. And then this book is following Gibbsy and Claire. So we haven't been in Gibbsy and Claire's POVs yet, but we've spent a lot of time with them throughout the other books. And even in this book, we're seeing a lot of Johnny and Shannon because they're like best friends with Claire and Gibbsy. And then we are still seeing quite a decent amount of Joey and Aoife. And I'm so glad, because I wasn't sure if we would, because actually, no, I won't go into it. If you know, you know. Like, it's just a different kind of relationship. But I feel like they're still kind of part of everything. But yeah, it just feels so good to be back with characters that you just know so well and you love so much and you care so much for. So many of these characters are just so traumatized though. Like so many of them just have very sad backstories, including some of the characters in this book. I have heard some interesting things about this book, and people don't tend to love this one as much as the other ones in the series. I feel like that's a general consensus at least. I'm really enjoying it so far, but I don't think I'm as attached as I was to the characters in the first 2 books and the second 2 books. But I'm trying to remember how I felt at like the 30, by the way, I'm 30% of the way through roughly. I'm trying to remember if at 30% of the way through Binding 13 or Saving 6, like was I this attached to the characters? Maybe I wasn't. Like maybe it was further into the books that I felt like so closely attached. And obviously I've only been with these characters for not as long. I'm still very attached to the characters, but I just don't feel as strongly about the storyline in this one yet. But we'll see. These books are definitely very character driven. There is like no plot, basically. Things are happening. It's not like there's literally nothing going on, and it's still interesting, at least to me. But for the most part, there's not like a super direct, clear plot. It is just friends hanging out, friends going to high school, dealing with the things they need to deal with, going through relationship stuff, falling in love, falling out of love, whatever it may be, family dynamics, friendships. Like there's a lot going on, but it's just, yeah, it's much more about the characters, which I really enjoy. So like that's not a criticism from me, but it is just like a thought that I wanted to share in case you haven't read these books and you want to know if it's for you. If you're not into character-driven books, wouldn't recommend. But yeah, I love this series so much, and it feels good to be back. I just made myself a coffee, so I am going to sit here, read my book, and drink my coffee. I'm very excited about it. I've just realized what has been happening. I can't believe I did not see it. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's awful. Oh, that makes me feel sick. Oh, frick. I just got to about 70%. I honestly think I'm gonna try and binge the rest of it today. I have just been in the biggest reading mood the last like week or two. Like every spare moment I have, I'm reading, and so I have binged this book all day today. But yes, I'm about 70% of the way through and I'm definitely really enjoying it. I don't think it's as good as Binding and Keeping 13 and Saving and Redeeming 6, but it has gotten better as it's gone on. I think I mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this one as much, but I couldn't remember if I felt that way about the other books when I was like earlier on. And I do think this series are just like those books that really grow on you. Like you get so attached to these characters. You spend so much time with them because the books are so long. And although nothing's really happening, tell me why I still feel like they should be that long. And I feel like I never want romance books to be long, but for some reason I don't really mind when it comes to these ones. I honestly could read thousands and thousands of pages about these characters and for some reason not get bored. Like tell me what's even going on. Not a whole lot, but I'm eating it up every single page. In terms of our characters, I am obsessed with Claire. I think she is a literal ray of sunshine. I love just how happy she is, and she just treats everyone so well. She is so nice to everyone, so caring. She just like wants the best for everyone. She so badly wants everyone to be happy despite them maybe not getting along. Like even if there are people that don't like each other, she just like so badly wants them to like each other. She so badly wants everyone to just be like best friends, and she will just do everything in her power to make everything better for her friends and the people that she loves. And I just love that. I truly just don't think she has a mean bone in her body. And then Gibbsy is just so layered. I feel like you don't really understand him until you get to his book, because he is like the class clown. He is very rambunctious, very rowdy, and he is like that, and that is like a huge part of him, but that's kind of the only part of him that you get to see in the other books, whereas when you're reading from his POV, you just get to see so much more of him, and there is so much going on in that head, and there is so much history, and he has just gone through so much. And it just makes me so mad that no one really knows. And he just doesn't talk to people about it. He's just like one of those people where everyone's like, oh, Gibbsy's fine. Like, don't have to worry about Gibbsy. Gibbsy is just always fine. And like, he's not all the time. Like, he's not. And I feel like Claire is the only one who really takes the time to like get to know him properly, if that makes sense. And like, Johnny is his best friend and Johnny is definitely there for him, but Gibbsy just like doesn't fully let him in. He doesn't really fully let anyone in. Even Claire, I feel like he could let her in more. So I don't know. I feel so heartbroken for Gibbsy and like all of the things that he's gone through in his life, and even just like how certain people treat him. It's just heartbreaking. But yeah, I obviously love them so much. I'm intrigued to see what happens in the last like 30% of this book. I've heard people say that he might get another book or he might not. So I'm like, well, how is this book gonna end if people aren't sure if he's gonna have another book or not? Like, is it gonna be all tied up nicely or is it not? Because I'm scared that it's not gonna be a satisfying ending, but I guess we will wait and see. Oh, these characters just feel so real. So last night I finished Taming 7. That was an absolute roller coaster. It was so good, and I definitely got more attached to the story and to the characters the further it went on. Like, I do think these books can be a bit of a slow burn in terms of like your enjoyment of them, because you just get so attached to the characters throughout their stories. It was really good. Really sad. Really sad. I think if you're gonna even start any of the books in this series, please look up trigger warnings. This whole series is just full of trauma, full of some really dark, heavy topics. So please be careful if you're going to pick up these books. I do recommend them because they are so good. Like, the found family in these books is insane. It's amazing. But they're heavy. They're not fun, silly little rom-coms. They are deep and full of trauma, but I just want you to be very aware of that before you go into this series. I do think the second half of this book was much stronger than the first half, which I guess makes sense because they had to kind of build it up in the first half to be able to get to the things in the second half. Like, I understand why it happened that way, but I will say that I enjoyed the second half a lot more because we just got to understand Gibbsy especially so much more in the second half. I still think I prefer the other books in the series over this one, but I still really enjoyed this one. I think I would have to say Bunny and Keeping 13 are my favorite, followed by Saving and Redeeming 6, and then followed by this one. But there's not a huge gap between them. I do feel fairly similarly about all three of the couples. Like, I love all of them so much, but I do just think Johnny and Shannon just, I don't know, they just hit a little bit different. And then even, I also worked out, I was saying Aoife, I'm pretty sure it's Aoife. So my apologies with that. But I think Joey and Aoife do come just a little bit above Claire and Gibbsy, but I don't know. Maybe, it's so hard to tell. They're all pretty equal in my mind. I would love to get a second book from Claire and Gibbsy, but I don't know if we will. It felt like it had a fairly decent conclusion. I fear I'm not deep enough into the Boys of Tom and Law to know all the ins and outs, because I know there are some huge fans that would probably be able to educate me a bit more about like what the publication order of these books are. So if you know if there's going to be another Gibbsy and Claire book, let me know. If you know whose book is next, I would love to know. Like, is Lizzie's book next or is Feely's book next? I feel like you can kind of see where both of their stories are kind of heading. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. Also, when is the next book coming out? Is it a long time? I'm not sure. Let me know. But yeah, I really love this. I don't know what to rate it because part of me thinks that I want to give it like a 4.25, but then I gave Lost and Lassoed a 4.25, and this feels like it's just on a completely different level to this, but they're just like good in different ways. Like, this was just like so much fun and so like giggly and lighthearted and just like feel good, whereas this one was like earth-shattering, but in a good way. I don't know, maybe it's a 4.5. I can't tell. I'm sitting somewhere like 4.25, 4.5. I'm not sure. All of the books in this series are super highly rated from me, so I recommend it. But like I said, check trigger warnings. But anyway, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed reading some more series with me. We did kind of get up to date with a few, which is good. So we started off reading Raylia. Oh my gosh, did I rate all of the books? I potentially rated all of the books in this video 4.25. That's kind of crazy. I didn't even realize that till right now. But I read Raelia, which I did read on my Kindle, and although I read this, I didn't technically complete a series because I only read the second book in like a long series. So that one's not complete, but we are a little bit closer to completing it. And then we obviously got up to date with the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and that was a lot of fun. But of course, there are more books coming in this series in the future, so it's completed for now. And this is really fun because I read the second book in this series in episode 1 of this video, so maybe I just film one of these every time a new Rebel Blue Ranch book comes out. And then of course we finished Taming 7, so again that means that I'm up to date with the Boys of Tommen series, which actually feels so satisfying. I feel like I've had this series kind of like looming over me for so long because I always knew I wanted to complete it, but it is a bit of an intimidating series because all the books are just so long, and although I love them so much, the idea of just like sitting down and knowing you're gonna get your heart broken and you just know you're gonna get so sad, it's hard to kind of commit. But we are officially up to date with Boys of Tommen, but again, there are more books coming, so up to date for now, but not forever. But overall, a very successful reading vlog. I loved all of these books. I recommend all of these books and all of these series, and it always does just feel so productive, I guess, to continue series that you've already started, and maybe I need to try and do more of that instead of just starting new ones all the time. But I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me during this video. I had so much fun reading with you guys, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.